these newfangled things any good?
As Far as the Eye is a roguelite city builder. It's developed by Unexpected and it's published by Goblin Studios. They sent us a review code, so I got cracking to see what I thought. If you have a look online, you will find very, very mixed reviews about this game. Been on Steam for a while, it came onto Switch, and when it was first launched, it was frankly broken. It was a broken game that you couldn't play. It was so glitchy that it was unplayable. I had a look at the Nintendo Life's review, for example, and they basically said don't buy the game. They gave it the lowest score I think I've ever seen. Thankfully, they did release a patch for it. So what I'm reviewing here is the patched version of the game. Now, to give you a little summary of what the game is, you play through various different modes in the game. So the first one is what they call the campaign, which really is the tutorial. It's badly named, and I would actually prefer that they just called it tutorial, because when you play through the campaign, it is boring as sin. But if it was framed as the tutorial, I would have given it a bit more of a break. So it leads you through how to play the game. You are trying to get your tribe of little characters, who are called pupils by the way, to the Eye, which is a safe haven. The basic premise of the game is that there is a flood that periodically comes, wipes out the earth and starts again. But there's this little haven called the Eye, and you try to get as many pupils there as possible to spare them from the inevitable watery grave that will occur if they stay put. You progress further and further and further from the Eye as you do each tutorial level. The first one you start 1 level away from the Eye, the second one you start 2 levels away, then 3 levels away, and so on. Each time you learn new skills, characters have many more options, and the game generally grows in complexity. I did find these tutorials were very, very text heavy, and they threw so much at me that I will be honest, I became a bit bewildered and sort of felt overwhelmed by the whole thing. But once you get your head into it, you can then go and play through some of the other modes that are available to you. So there are some predefined campaign ones, and there's some ad hoc, just made on the fly versions for you to play through. You can tweak the game's parameters settings to your liking. You can have it as difficult or as easy as you want when you're using some of these modes. And the basic premise, as I've said, is just work through levels, get closer and closer to the Eye, and try to keep your pupils alive. It's not always an easy thing to do, because pupils get hungry. Pupils get savaged and ravaged by all kinds of things that will happen to them. Periodically, you will find that a plague of locusts will come through and eat all your food, and your characters then die. Or they will run out of food because you're not very good at producing it. Or, well, actually, you know what, I'm not going to sit here and list all the ways you can die. There's many ways you can die in this game. And that's kind of perplexed me, because the game sort of purports to be a calming game. The music is very calming. The pastel colours are very calming. The whole aesthetic of the game is very calming. It's all very calming. But then there's the stress of the sea advancing. When you go through the tutorial, the sea's not really too bad. The waters come close, but there's always enough of a buffer in there that even if you make a few mistakes, you're probably going to make it to the end of the level. But when you start playing the game for real, it gets tight. It gets very, very nervy, and I have to say it became quite uncomfortable to play. But that's just me. Maybe you like that. I quite like the way the game works on some levels. The aesthetic is very nice. The pastel colours work nicely, the characters are well drawn. As your pupils get different careers, they change their aesthetic, they change into different animals. The hexagon tile reminds me a little bit of playing Civilizations, and actually it works quite nicely. The levels aren't too big, they're relatively straightforward, but I will admit to being stuck many times through the tutorial because it just wasn't clear what I was supposed to do. I ended up googling a few times to see what was meant to happen. And despite the fix, there were a few times that glitches occurred, and I found out that if I followed the steps in someone else playing it exactly, I could get to the end of the level. If I didn't follow the steps exactly, the game kind of just got stuck. It's not that the game froze, it just wouldn't move forward. So I took turn after turn after turn and nothing happened. Maybe it did happen and I missed a small dialogue box, I don't know. It was very unforgiving. So, what do I think of this game? I honestly don't know. I have sunk many, many hours into this. I mean, probably somewhere between 15 and 20 hours. I spent a long time trying to write a review of this game. And at the end of it, I think that I don't recommend it to people. But I'm really not sure. I feel like it should be a very good game. I feel like a lot of people could really like it, but there's just something. I struggled. I made myself go back to play it because I knew I had a review to do. I didn't go back to do it because I wanted to. And most of the time, I think that was the frustration of things just not working, or me being overwhelmed and not understanding exactly what I was supposed to do. There's a lot of complexity in this game, and if you're willing to be patient and spend a lot of time, really dig deep into it, into the nuance of how things work, I suspect you might find a gem here, but I feel even though it's had a patch, it's a gem that still needs more work. The dialogue on the screen could be a bit bigger, that would make life a little bit easier. Some of the prompts could be a little bit more obvious, but the single biggest complaint I have with this game is the control scheme. Now this is a PC game, it was on Steam, and I imagine it worked really well with a keyboard and a mouse. But in moving it over to the Switch, I just feel that it's been a very clumsy transition. To give you an example, if you want to build a building, first of all you select the character with A. You might have to jump around a couple times to find the correct character because it's not always obvious which character you have highlighted. It tells you their name, but it doesn't make it so obvious on the screen which one is that name. So you find your character, you then have to press Y to open their build menu, you then press X to build the building you want to build, but there's a couple of different options on how you want to build it, and it doesn't really explain how those work. You then press another button to actually build the thing. It's just clunky. It's really clunky. I feel that I wish they'd spent a lot more time on the UI to make this game a much better experience on a console. Trying to play with a controller, it doesn't work. It really doesn't work, and I feel really bad about that because I can tell the developers have spent a lot of time on this game. I can see and feel that love has gone into this. This is not a game that's been thrown together in 2 minutes where someone's looking to have a cash grab. It's a proper labour of love, and I really want to like it and I want to recommend it. I just don't think I can. And I'm going to caveat that with a big yet. I think if they can just tweak the control system a bit, if they can make the tutorial a little bit more obvious, maybe slower, I don't know, and rename it as a tutorial, I think this could be a gem. Maybe. Keep your eye out. If another patch comes out and they fix these issues, I would recommend buying this game. I really would. I think there's a lot to offer in there, but as it stands, yeah, I'm sorry guys, I really am, but save your money.